It's been
Go ahead and call tonight's regular city council meeting to order. And for tonight's invocation, we got Pastor Carlos Campos from the Calvary Baptist Church.
Let's pray. God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for another day of life. Father, knowing that you had a purpose for us. And Father, thank you so much for your love, for your kindness, for the sacrifice of your Son. And Father, I pray for all the men and women in this room, and Father, the position that you've put us in, knowing that you are the privilege it is to be a leader. And Father, I pray that this evening would bring honor to your name, that everything that is done here would be done just as you have planned. Thank you for the men and women that are here and the sacrifice that they make. Please protect them and their families and their loved ones, and continue to guide them and guide this city according to your will. We love you, Jesus. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Sean Girdle.
Here.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Here.
Rob Heatherly.
Here.
Bruce Jones.
Here.
Rocky Moore.
Here.
Martin Boda.
Here.
Earl Walters.
Here. All right, 7 aldermen present, 1 absent. Okay, the first thing we have is a motion to utilize the omnibus vote for approval of the minutes of the previous meetings listed on tonight's agenda under the title Omnibus Vote Designation. Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Jones.
Mr. Mayor, I think you were talking about perhaps removing the late minutes.
I will. Right now, we're just getting the motion to use the, and then we do the minutes, so. All right, roll call, please.
Sean Girdle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, the minutes will be approving. I'll read those now. I will make note that we will be pulling out the minutes of the Lake Airport Committee meeting held February 11, 2016, per Alderman Voda's request. We'll make an amendment and we'll vote on that separately. But the rest of the minutes we'll be approving will be the minutes of the regular meeting held February 1st, 2016. Minutes of the Emergency Services Committee meeting held February 4th, 2016. Minutes of the Personnel Committee meeting held February 4th, 2016. Minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held February 9th, 2016. Minutes of the Ordinance Committee meeting held February 9th, 2016. And minutes of the Water Environmental Committee meeting held February 11th, 2016. I did entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Heatherly. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Girdle.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, now I'll ask Alderman Boda, whatever amendments you need to make on
I will
the Lake Airport Committee.
be glad to address that issue, Your Honor. Gentlemen, on the second page of the minutes on the Boyd Dapper Preservation, the dates for the 2 meetings that were mentioned at that evening are incorrectly listed on the minutes. The Boyd Dapper Youth Council will meet on February 24th as opposed to the 22nd as indicated. And the meeting of the Lake and Airport Committee will meet on March 22nd as opposed to listed as March 24th. So with that, Your Honor, I'd like to make those amendments and then have a motion to approve these minutes as amended.
Okay, get a second on that motion.
Second, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters. Discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? That motion passes. We'll move on to, we've got several resolutions here, but at least the first 2 I'm going to hold until we actually read the Finance Committee motions. Let's go down to the 3rd resolution, amendment number 1, cable franchise agreement. This regarding Consolidated Communications Enterprises Services Incorporated. Entertain a motion to approve that resolution or accept that resolution.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second Walters, second by Alderman Moore. Discussion or comment?
Brief
Roll.
comment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Just want to make note that the particular amendment number 1 is the one that we proposed to Consolidated Communications, and they had discussions with them, they agreed to.
You won.
We won. I wanted that as record.
On the record, Rocky won.
He earned his money this time.
Roll call, please.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore,
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a resolution for BCH Incorporated. This is an easement agreement. City Attorney, do you want to make any comments before we?
We've now, this is the, I think the third of the four for that project, and they've now signed off on it, so with the adoption of this resolution, we will be signing it, we'll get it recorded, and get the title insurance and go forward.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Walters, a second.
Second.
Alderman Voda, discussion and comment. Roll call.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore,
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, next on the list is the ordinance, but I'll wait till the water committee minutes for that. And we'll go on to a motion here, and this is rather lengthy, so here we go. Motion to terminate CBIZ Benefits and Insurance Services Incorporated as the benefit consultant broker for the city's employee health insurance plan. This is Vision Benefits Group, plan number 300-11457-60001 with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, Delta Dental, VSP, Amwins, and EBC, individually and collectively known as the plan, and to appoint Diamond Brothers LLC as the exclusive benefit consultant broker for the plan, provided Diamond Brothers LLC agrees and signs the confidentiality, hold harmless, and indemnity agreements in a form acceptable to the city. And Gary McNeely will be authorized to contact appropriate representatives of the plan on behalf of the city to effect such termination and appointment, and to obtain and have executed the necessary documents and instruments to effect such transfer of benefit consultant broker, and to assure that HIPAA laws are complied with by CBIZ and Diamond Brothers LLC.
Mr. Mayor, before you ask for a motion on that, Gary McNeely has asked me before the meeting started if we could substitute his name and simply put a representative of Diamond Brothers LLC.
Okay, so just remove his name?
Yes.
Okay.
He would prefer that.
All right, we'll move it that way. And somebody give me a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Heberlin,
Second.
second by Alderman Walters. Additional discussion or comments?
Just one question. Has
Yep.
anyone contacted our broker as of record yet to let him know that this is coming? I know last time we didn't approach the people that he was wanting to take over. I just want to make sure that we were affording him the same opportunity. Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Rocky Moore,
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to city attorney updates.
5 subject matters this evening, gentlemen. Number 1, as Coleman real estate transaction was successfully closed, I think last Wednesday. Secondly, is that the mayor today received a letter from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency concerning our airport project. And as a quick reading of the agreement, I think the mayor will send an email to everybody. The request was for $113,123.72. Their final review of that application resulted in an approval of $109,924.24. They listed on an attachment some of the deductions which come up with that 109. I know the mayor and I had a brief conversation this afternoon. We were a little concerned about some language that had on one page without a dollar amount stating that the work that the city did and paid for on the fencing and the asphalting, and the rock quarry, since it was billed directly to us, the city, it was not eligible for payment. But yet, when I did the math, it's not deducted from the request that we made. So we'll have to sort that out and see. But the exceptions that they did not approve was related to some of the work of John Miracle, for the engineering fees, a 50-cent error in what he came up with on well abandonment cost, and some corrective action activities that, again, I think was more of us in the engineering And then and the city had requested $1,473.23 at the recommendation of John Miracle, the consulting engineer, for handling charges for subcontractor costs, and they denied that at this point. But I think in the next coming days, we can have a conversation with the attorney for EPA and just find out when we're gonna get the money and just to clarify that dollar amount. So, but at least we've got something back now, so it's coming to go close to closure. The letter, of course, says it's subject to availability of funds, so who knows with the budget process the way it is in the state level, when that will actually come either this year or next. The next matter is that, and I wanted to point out to you, I know on your finance committee, I've not attended any of your meetings and your negotiations with the First National Bank on the exchange agreement. I have prepared a document based upon emails that I've received from the chairman and looking at the minutes. So these are just my reaction to what your direction were to me. I saw in the minutes, the document that I prepared, if the question is it legal? The answer is yes. So whether or not you wish to put that kind of teeth into it, is a business decision for you gentlemen when you go to your next finance committee and decide whether or not you want all those clauses in there. But it's there for your examination, so I want to make that clear. The third thing I wanted to mention, the fourth thing here, is that, and I'm not ready to give you an opinion yet, but I have looked at your Wannaco water contract, and I've got some, of interest. I think there might be something that we can talk about. I did have a conversation, shared my thoughts with your auditor today, who's going to take a look at it again and see if he can jump on board with my thoughts on it about whether or not the depreciation cost can be added back in. And I can give you a more formal opinion once I know, and I told Rich that I was giving him a heads up, let him look at it, but from my review of the two agreements, you had one in 1970, then you came back, the city did in 1987, and it had an amendment to it that added a sentence, and the question is, what was the intent of that sentence? And so we're in the process of looking at city council meetings minutes that Pam is putting together, and so when we get something put together, I'll share with everybody, and we can go from there, okay? The other thing is, I just want to mention this, I think it's probably going to be cleared up tonight with the bills, but, is Dick behind me?
Yeah. No.
Okay, well, I just want to point out, in the future, I think I've had a conversation before, anytime that we put in public improvements such as water mains or sewer mains, even though it may be on private property, if we are the contractor for that particular project, we've got to make sure that prevailing wages are paid. And it's really, if we're going to be one hiring a contractor, we need to follow the form contract, we should certificate of insurance, and if it's a high enough project, a requisite bond needs to be paid. Those are state requirements. And if you're going to be on private property, and we're going to be connecting some pipes to an existing main on private property, we need to have an easement. So in the future, if you ever want to go and maintain it. I'm told that this particular project I have in mind, there's some checking if prevailing wages were in fact paid. But I just, in the future, the topic came up in the hospital, because they're very strict about that prevailing wage statute, and it's been interpreted such that if we have our hands on it, and it's a public improvement, we gotta make sure those kind of wages are paid. So is there any questions with those matters that I've talked about? Okay. You got a question?
Alderman Heatherly.
I'm not sure where the appropriate place is to bring this up, but since you're the legal scholar.
Thank you.
At last Thursday night's water meeting, it came to our attention that the state is 7 months behind on their water bill to the tune of $255,598.72. We as a city last month sent out 438 disconnect notices to residents in our town who owe $41,389.39. Of those, we shut off 38 households for a total of, I think if you hear this, $4,043.34. We send out notices to our residents. We shut off water to our customers if they're a resident of the city of Taylorville. But the state owes us over $250,000, and we don't evidently do anything. And there has to be something we can do besides send a letter. I mean, I don't know why we would compel the citizens of Taylorville to continue paying their water when we allow the state not to pay their bill. Do we have the opportunity to shut their water off?
You do. And I think City of Springfield, if you've read in the media, and they're grasping with that same issue on, electricity. Yes, legally you have the right to shut them off and treat them as the same as any other customer of the water system, absolutely. You just gotta, I guess, and this is a practical thing, you shut them off, and you've got how many drinkers out there that don't have any water, and what's that gonna do? But that's just the practical side. Outside of, if you're not gonna shut them off, then outside of the mayor contacting the appropriate representatives and putting pressure and getting it out of the media is what's going on, and let this put another pressure on our legislature to get something done statewide. Short of that, then you can shut them off. That's what you do.
In lieu of non-payment, and is there any kind of pressure that we can apply to get them to make payments? It's like any other big bill. If you can't pay it all, we would certainly take something on a regular basis. I mean, I don't know if there's anything in the statutes that allows us to do that or gives us any teeth to where we can force them to do that. We certainly can't give them penalties.
When you sue the motherland, so to speak, you gotta go to court of claims. It's a different, whole new statute that you have to sue the state of Illinois. But do you have remedies? Yes. I mean, it's just a question if you want to exercise those and exercise shut off or go after them for a judgment for the amount they owe. But then it's a question of how you're going to collect it. I mean, you're throwing good money after bad, because until the legislature adopts a budget and approves payment, the courts pretty much have their hands tied. But if you're asking me, can you sue them? Yes.
Can we go out there tomorrow and shut their water off?
Well, you gotta give them the notice. Yes, I mean, if you give them the notice like you do everybody else, I think when you get a 10-day notice or 15-day notice, whatever it is, say, this is your banquet, and you either have to, pay this by date certain, or your water will be shut off, and there'll be reconnect fee like anybody else.
I mean,
If that's the action you want to take.
if we go into 8 months, we're going to be approaching $300,000. And that's just a chunk of change. I don't think we should carry the state. We have to, if we borrow from them, we have to pay it back.
Well, I don't think we're carrying the state. I mean, unfortunately, I
Yeah.
think it's that way all the way across in every municipality.
I'm
It's in the
worried
same
about Taylor.
situation. I understand. But if they allowed that, and I've seen several other councils and mayors have had these same conversations. We ought to go out there and turn it off. I haven't seen anyone do it yet. They've all talked about it. I can't imagine, would the governor have the power to say, I'm sorry, yes, legally you have, but this is an emergency action and you can't put 1,200 inmates and say, guess what, overrule you. Kind of like, the air traffic controllers when they try to go on strike.
We're non-home rule, and they're in control of the state, and they might have that power. I have to do some research on it, but it's.
I mean, I understand the frustration, but the other side of the coin is, as the state looks to try and save money and everything else, if they then have another reason to say, well, Taylorville's prison's not all that, and let's close that prison, then who wins? Did we win because we pushed the issue and taught them a lesson? Or did our customers, that's the trade-off?
Well, Alderman Heatherly mentioned about penalties. I don't know why we cannot assess a 10% penalty like we do on the other delinquent water bill.
I think, I was reading in one of the memos that we got that by statute, we can't apply penalties. That was my understanding.
I have to check that out. I think do something to do with it.
I think there's different things that.
Actually, we can apply
Okay.
a late charge that's 1%. I think the previous city attorney looked that up for us. We can put a 1% late fee on there, but we haven't done it up to this point. And for the life of me, I don't know why. But we've talked about it over and over and over again. We talked about Dave going out there with the tar guys back shutting the water off. We talked about a whole host of things that never have happened. And I feel your frustration, and I agree with that, we should shut it off. Even if they tell us that we can't, the point in Springfield is that they're not listening to one another a lot of times like we don't listen to one another here. They're at odds with one another, so they don't care what the other side's saying. The other side could have a good idea, but they're not listening, so they're not gonna hear it. And the more pressure that local municipalities like Taylorville put on them.
We're doing nothing.
Yeah, we're doing nothing. If it's nothing more than say, hey, you know what, we're tired of this, we want it fixed, I think it's something we should do. I still think that we should be applying the penalty to them regardless of where the money comes from. I mean, the arguments we've had in the past is, well, it's tax dollars, we're taxing ourselves. Well, that's a point that's kind of a mute point as far as I'm concerned. I can charge a late fee. I've asked Mr. Dorchenez, I've asked Superintendent Spiegel, if I did not pay my water bill for 6 months, what would they do? And they both told me they'd shut my water off.
They would shut you off 6 months ago,
Yeah.
or 5 months.
And I don't know why the state of Illinois or the prison or anybody else for that matter is an exception to that rule. If the governor says we can't shut it off, then we can't shut it off. We can, by state statute, apply the 1% late fee. Why we're not doing it is beyond me.
Then I would take that further though, you know, if these nursing homes and other ones are also not getting their payments, if because of that, they start not paying some of their bills, we then go to the nursing homes and shut them off as well. Because of the trickle down theory going across the state. I mean, this all sounds good, like we're gonna force your thing, but you really are, you're shooting yourself in the foot. We are a state, we're part of the state. And we get frustrated with the way they're doing things, and we try and do things to get their attention. Might this get their attention, and might it turn out good? It's worth a try. When we contacted the comptroller's office before, they have sent money and cut their bill up a little bit. So we need to continue to do that kind of thing for sure. So that way the comptroller at least, you know, is aware of our situation and knows, you know, that we're watching it closely. So, you know, that was the purpose of the letter, at least to try and get her attention again this time, because it had worked in the past.
Well, that's a huge amount of money.
It is, it is. And,
Your Honor, I've heard both sides of this argument for many years. I've been on the council where we talked about it. Now, standard procedure, if I understand this right, if the state of Illinois is 2 months behind on their bills, they're considered current. So I'd be more than happy if they would send us a check for the 5 months and we call it even and we'll go from there. If they don't want to do that, shut the water off. What's the government going to do? Send the National Guard down against us? Shut the water off. Make a point. It's ridiculous to put our citizens through that, especially with the press now knowing what's going on, get the word out, so that the citizens of Taylorville know that they'll have their water shut off, but the prison won't. Come on, guys. Send Ernie Dorchenez out there with David Spiegel and shut the water off.
Him to go first.
But obviously it's not on the agenda tonight, so.
You get the action on the news.
All right.
Maybe we can move the meeting along.
Let's move it along. Anything else from the city attorney or for the city attorney?
That's what we do.
Okay.
It's an important point, and we can speed the meeting up as much as we want to. But $255,598.72 is still on the table. And I hope if we're gonna send a letter, we send a letter every day. And if we're gonna make a phone call, we make a phone call every day.
I mean, I agree with that. Of course, the press is here and they covered the situation at the schools. I don't know how much the schools are currently owned by the state. I mean, it's higher than that, I believe. We're talking millions, aren't we?
Millions, and also generation, you know, the duration of it, you know, probation's cut. So generation state aid over $3 million, it's quite a chunk of change.
Yeah. So, again, we're all in it together, but we can make as much noise as we can.
But the school's not shutting down the education. Well, leading to that. I know.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's move on to mayor updates, and I've already just discussed what I was going to bring up. I was going to refer to the letter and tell you that at least Thursday morning, the executive director of the IML is going to be here. And I'm going to ask him about that question, to see what the IML itself is doing and what they suggest for the other towns that are in similar situations. And I will update everyone on his response. Move on to committee reports. Discussions and or motions to approve, adopt, and or deny, and or table, and or amend, and refer to an appropriate committee in whole or in part the matters regarding the following subject matters discussed at the committee level. We'll start out with the Emergency Services Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first motion came out of that committee meeting was a motion to authorize the city to accept the settlement sum of $600 in full payment of invoice number 1501032 relating to an ambulance service bill in collection with the city of Charleston. I'll make that in form of a motion. Any comment?
The second,
Second.
Alderman Headley, go ahead with your comment.
You know, when this motion was made, there were several aldermen that asked, including myself, whether the attorney that asked for this sum to be lowered was taking a cut on his side of the settlement. And of course, we didn't have that answer, but I think in the future, when we have the fire chief with a request like this, he's gonna ask on the other end, and I might throw this question out to the city attorney, whether that's legal or not, for them to prove who's all taking a cut and making sure that it's not just the city of Taylorville.
Fair question to ask the other side, anytime you're asked to take a less sum of money that's owed to you.
Okay, so I think we'll make that a standard procedure there on that.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Martin Boda,
Yes.
Earl Walters,
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
The next motion was to allow Police Chief Herb Street to send 2 officers to 1911 Operators Course at the ADMAC Training Academy in Lincoln, Illinois, at a cost of $525 each. I'll make that in form of a motion.
Second, Alderman Jones. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
The next motion was to allow Police Chief Herb Street to send 2 police officers to the Vehicle Engagement Tactics class at the ADMAC Training Academy in Lincoln, Illinois, at a cost of $440 each. I'll make that in form of a motion.
Put a second on that.
Second.
Alderman Headley, discussion or comment? Roll call.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And the last motion was to forward to the Safety Committee to consider purchasing a firearms clean barrel from Weapons Clear LLC at a cost of $499 from the Illinois Public Risk Fund Safety Grant Fund. Make that in form of a motion.
Put a second on that.
I'll second with the comment, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters, go ahead with your comment.
At the committee level, I said I couldn't support that, but if it will go to the safety committee and they will pay for it with their dollars, then I will support it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 motions. The first being a motion to direct the mayor to write a letter of request to the Board of Fire and Police Commission to replace the vacancy in the police department.
Second, Alderman Bertle. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Motion to direct the mayor to send a letter to the Board of Fire and Police Commission to replace a police officer position if the need arises. Authorize a motion.
Second.
Second, Alderman Bertle. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And finally, a motion to accept the proposed non-bargaining salaries as presented, and that table was on you guys' desk when you came here tonight. Authorize a motion.
Second.
Second, Alderman Jones. Discussion or comment? Go ahead, Alderman Bertle.
I'm gonna probably say the same exact thing as I said the last time we did this. I don't like the proposed increase for the 2 assistant fire chief and the deputy chief of police. I didn't like it the last time we did it, although I understand the process and what we're trying to get the salary between them and the chiefs wider. But I don't like the idea that we we're giving somebody less than 1%. I didn't like last time, and I don't like it this time.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
No.
Martin Boda.
No.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez. Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Motion passes, no, it's 3-3, mayor votes, breaks the tie, yes. Motion passes 4-3. I mean,
Mr. Mayor.
Wait a minute, 3 to
There's 7 Alderman here. There's 7.
Yeah.
checked one wrong. Okay, then the motion passes 4-3. I got the yeses, Bertle, Heberlin, Jones, and Walters, is that correct? Okay, so passes 4-3. Moving on to the Finance Committee, and Alderman Bud is not here tonight, so I'll read those for him. First, we have a motion to approve the reimbursement request of, good luck here, Donjin Incorporated, doing business as the Samurai Sushi and Steakhouse from the Sam Taylor Facade Grant Program for 100 East Market Street in the amount of $1,005. Entertain a motion to approve that. And that's less than what they asked for. Those are the ones we agreed upon.
I'll second that.
Well, I need it first.
No,
First.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Have any additional discussion or comment? Roll call.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, next we have a motion to earmark approximately $5,000 per month for 20 years from the sewer use fees for funding the completion of Phase 5 Kenton Addition. Briefly talked with the city attorney, and I just kind of think we're doing this out of order. We do have our bond counsel, and we're going to be approving them later tonight, and just briefly talking to him, I think he's on the same page. I mean, that's kind of what we're going to pay him to do, is to look at our finances and make sure we can do this kind of thing. But I think you would have to have a better description of a source, other than just kind of making a motion, hey, we promise to pay this. You know, Mike Southwood, Ms. I've introduced
Well, I
yourself.
share that opinion too, and I talked to Mike as well. I think
Okay.
it's something
Yes.
that needs to be tabled until he gets his job done.
Okay, can I get a motion to table this? Or we do a roll call?
That is correct.
Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Moore.
I guess we can't.
Roll call to table, I guess.
Martin Boda.
I'm saying no.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
No.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes. Okay, motion passes to table it 5-2. All right, next we have a motion to retain Hart, Southworth, and Witzman as bond counsel to administer the IEPA loan for the 30-inch Northeast Sanitary Sewer Project and the Phase 5 Kenton Addition Project. Mike? Once
Yeah,
again,
well, yeah.
I'll give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself and your firm, if you would.
Absolutely, yes. My name is Mike Southworth. Our firm is from Springfield, out of Springfield, have been involved in municipal finance for, since the 80s, early 80s. I've worked with a number of bodies, the City of Springfield, Springfield School District, school districts throughout central Illinois, other municipalities throughout central Illinois. And so have worked on a number of IEPA loan financings. And so we very much enjoy working with the city of Taylorville.
Any questions for Mike? Yeah, then entertain a motion to retain it. Oh, wait a minute. City
Target
Attorney.
fees and so forth, so again,
Yeah, with financings, it's always a variety of factors that go into the ultimate cost of legal services. Part of it is the size of the bond, the amount being borrowed, the complexity. Generally, we charge at a rate of $250 per hour. So, and at the end of the day, it really is a matter of the complexity of the financing and the time taken.
Let's go again. Any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion to retain the firm Hart Southwood and Witzman as bond counsel. Need somebody to make that motion?
I'll make that motion with the comments, Your Honor.
A second? On vote, go ahead with the comment on the Walters.
Would part of that motion would be necessary to name the two things, the Northeast Sanitary Sewer Project and the Phase 5 Kent Addition Project.
Yeah, I've read them initially, they don't read them, but yes, okay, project.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the engineering service agreements with Green and Bradford Incorporated for the 30-inch Northeast Sanitary Sewer Project and Phase 5 Kenton Addition. And then I added this, barring any outstanding concerns regarding the agreement language. So I would suggest we have our city attorney take a quick look at the agreement. He did take a quick look at it and brought up some concerns. So I'd like to have the motion to approve with his okay, basically, I guess, is what I'm asking for. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor, with the comment.
Walters, need a second?
I'll second it with comment.
Jones, on Walters, go ahead.
My comment, we would want the city attorney to look at, there's two agreements, but they're tied together.
Yeah, oh, exactly, I'm gonna make sure the word is proper.
And I noted in my quick look at it this afternoon that there's like 5 exhibits that's not in your packet, but I think the city clerk sent out an email to you folks to say if you want to look at them, they're there for looking, but that's going to have the rates, the scope of the project, and the plans, the specs, and all that. So that's a big decision on your part. But there's a couple of things that I think with a couple of phone calls with Joe we get that worked out.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Jones.
Should our city attorney find something that he feels needs to be changed, how will we be changing that since we're giving the authorization upon his approval? If he doesn't approve of some things,
Got any guys anything with that?
I would suggest, yeah, if I suggested something that the mayor thinks is legitimate, that it needs to come back to you folks to get to see the final number. One of the things I saw, guys, just, and I'm sure it's just maybe an oversight on a form that they might use, is to ask the city to hold them harmless if they make any mistakes. I don't think that you would ever want to agree to something like that.
No.
So, I mean, that's number one.
yeah. Okay.
That could be right in the face when I saw that, and it could probably be resolved very quickly.
That's what I'm saying, if things can be resolved, then we'll go ahead and, then you'll go.
I would think you'd be opposed to something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Burke.
You know, the question, and I probably had this on the previous motion too, but, if there's questions whether the funds that we're going to pay the bonds back for the Kent, paid by the Kent addition is in question, whether that is a dedicated source or not. And now we're okaying not only bond counsel, we're trying to okay engineering services for something that is in question, whether we have the money to pay for. Should that portion of these two motions be stricken? Just the Kent addition phase 5, because if it comes back that $5,000 per month out of the sewer usage fees is not eligible or not a dedicated source, then it's a moot point. We don't have the funding currently to pay for any of those.
Well, the problem is, as you submit the IUPA for these loans and everything else, it's their requirement that you have your engineer in place and an agreement signed with them as part of the application process. So obviously you wouldn't pay him if he didn't go ahead and do the work. But
And I think just maybe to clarify with Mike being here, I don't think that there's a serious question as to whether or not the user fee income can be used to retire bonds. That's typically what happens. I think what the question about tabling was that, like you had the proposal before, when Mike puts together loan agreements or the numbers, he will probably make some comment, or your finance guy may comment, are your user fees high enough to be able to pay $6,000 a month or $5,000 a month, whatever you do, and still have enough to cover your operating expenses and depreciation and maintenance required by the statute? I think that's why it's being tabled, because we don't know those numbers yet.
Okay, but my question to further that statement is,
Sure.
he does that, finds out there is not enough.
Then you'd have to come back to you, the council and say, all right, you're gonna have to raise your user fees if you wanna borrow this money, or they're not gonna loan you money. Is that how it works?
That is correct.
That's how it works.
And I don't know about bond council, or how they do their work, but I know normally our engineering, it never stops. So even if we go through this process, we find out there's not enough money, and we keep chugging along, the engineering's gonna keep going. They're gonna keep engineering until somebody tells them to stop, and we normally don't say that. So I'm just concerned that we're gonna rack up a lot of charges on the Bayside Kent Edition project when we're not sure that we can pay for it yet.
Well, and those are a legitimate concern, and if, something you can do in your engineering agreement is say that, no work is done until we give you notice to proceed on this step, and then notice to proceed on the next step, and so on and so forth. I think what the mayor was indicating to me this afternoon was that there has to be some kind of agreement made so that it can accompany the loan application, so that the state knows that you've got an engineer on board that will do the work if and when they approve the loan. I think that's what you were indicating to me. So, but you have a valid point. We can put some language in there and say, okay, Joe, let's not do anything until we give you notice to proceed. We got the application in. Now, if we're gonna get the loan, and we know we can afford it, now we'll go to step 2 and do the work necessary to put that in place. That's a good point. We can do that language in an agreement.
Because I think we've had quite a bit of engineering done on that project already. So I don't wanna keep piling on these bills, and then, we fast forward 6 months, and all of a sudden, boom, now we can't do it. And we got all this money wrapped up in engineering, so I just wanna make sure that does not happen.
And I don't know that, and Mary, you'll have to help me, is there such a chance that when you make your loan application, say, if in fact the loan is made, we will enter into these agreements. Can you do it backwards that way? So you're not even
How do we satisfy with that?
No, you can't, I don't know. You can't do that. You have to have your-
How do we know that? How did you get that answer?
These papers have to accompany the loan application with the plan.
Okay, but he's saying that we're gonna tell the engineer that we're not gonna do any engineering until we have our finances in place. Why are you two saying that we can't do that?
Well, I spoke to the engineer this morning because I wanted to know what the $72,000 was for. And he explained to me that these papers that we are or are not approving tonight have to accompany the application that goes into the IEPA. Without these papers, the application will not be considered.
With the dollar amounts.
Okay, and I understand that, but what I'm saying is, and here's where we lose the point, I don't think we're listening.
And then it could be the other way around.
Yeah, I understand that the paperwork has to be in place in order to do the application. What I'm saying is, we don't have to authorize Joe to do the work until it's approved.
And if I might, it seems that both of these agreements with Green and Bradford are for the purposes of on-site inspection while construction is taking place. That was my understanding with my conversation with Joe Green this morning. So theoretically, since there's no construction taking place, there shouldn't be any of these funds used for any engineering purposes prior to that.
Is that the way you think?
As he says it, I'm looking at the first clause there. It is description for construction, guidance, and observation, so on both of those. So, as an added safeguard, perhaps we can say, that's fine, but don't do any of that work till the city council issues a notice to proceed. Then you have that comfort zone that says, well, at that point with the construction guidance, you're gonna have your loan in place.
Okay.
And then,
I don't think Joe would care about
And
that.
I'd really love to support this, but I'm not going to unless we do some kind of wording on this.
I agree with the council. I think that we ought to be safe, better safe than sorry.
Right.
And I talked to city treasurer this morning along with the former city treasurer, and I also have some concerns. I'm gonna bring them up now because it's gonna go its path anyway, and it's going to be a negative tonight.
So if you feel more comfortable, I could take a peek at it, have a conversation with Joe, with you, and suggest some language, and bring it back at your next council meeting, so you see something in black and white.
I'd like to do that.
Alderman Jones?
When do these documents have to be presented.
Yeah, I don't know what the time frame is.
That's what I'm saying, if we're on a time frame and we put it off another month. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward that they can't do the work without the construction going on. They can't do the construction until we get the money. So if we get the construction, if we get the loan, then they're allowed to do the work. They can't do any of that work until it's oversight on the project. So they can't do any of that work until the project's going on.
I would disagree. You know, Mr. Joe Green has done engineering on projects prior to those projects being approved. Because he thinks that 99.9% it's going to be approved, and he's done it.
Yeah.
So we don't want that work being done unless we've got funding. We don't want him to go doing any engineering whatsoever until the funding's there.
I think we can make that clear to them when we have the conversation with them. Again, the flip side of this, whatever the professional, whether it be our city attorney or our engineer or anything else, you have to allow some flexibility before they can even present something to you. If Rocky would not be allowed to talk to our city clerk, except, an hour before meeting nights, so we wouldn't run up any bills, we wouldn't get much done around here.
I know, but, okay, the exception to that is that we tabled where the money was gonna come from, because we're not sure of whether that's gonna be approved or not. And then, in the next two paragraphs, we're saying, well, whether we have the money or not, we're gonna go ahead and okay this paperwork in order to get that done. I think we got cart before the horse here on this. And I was under the impression the last time we got bond counsel, I thought they went through our finances and made sure that money, it sounds like that hasn't even happened yet.
That was for the bond meeting, if we were gonna go the bond route. And each one has to, like any other application, you have to have whatever professional you're using for that application with it.
Well, so I mean, we are bonded.
This is a IDA loan. I mean, it's different than going out in the market and bonding, because, and the reason we did that, it's gonna save at least 2 full percentage points, which would be, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Just going with the description of work that you pointed out, okay? Construction guidance and observation, that's how it's worded on both of these agreements.
Correct.
Construction guidance means you have to start construction before you can give any guidance. And observation is after the construction begins. So that's what I'm reading here, okay? Now, if we get clarification from Mr. Green that nothing will be done, and we can get a letter of intent stating that, signed by both parties, and he should start something after this letter of intent signed, then we aren't obligated to pay him, because he has not followed what we have agreed to. Is that correct? Can we do something like that?
You could do something like that, but look at paragraph 12. I've not seen those exhibits. I don't know what those exhibits say. I don't know when it's talking about these supplemental conditions or the scope of construction phase service attachment. I don't know if those conflict with that first description of work. I've not seen that. So I want to look at that. And I think number 6 and 7, you're going to want to be seriously amended. In other words, I mean, Joe's going to do good work, we know that. But I mean, it's just that the fact is that you shouldn't be indemnifying me if I make a bad legal call here. I mean, it's just happen.
Unless it's something you don't have control over, then you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that's kind of like.
That's right. If you cause the problem,
Right.
then, yeah, you need to protect me because I didn't do it.
I could, one more suggestion, we have these two projects lumped together that may not need to be lumped together. I mean, the 30-inch northeast sanitary sewer, we have the funding in place for that.
Yeah, you get
We know-
two separate agreements.
Yeah, we know where we're gonna get the money to pay for that, and then it says, and phase 5 Kenton, why can't we make two separate motions with the caveat, Kenton, phase 5?
You could.
Would that satisfy all the conversation up here? Because I think everybody's in agreement on the 30-inch. And we all agreed on where that money was gonna come from. The phase 5, I thought the other night we came to an agreement on where that money was gonna come from, but now that's in question. So I don't know why they're still not.
I don't know that that's in question. I mean, we were just talking about the motion to do it is not necessary at this point. That's why it was tabled. It's not because there was a question of whether it's there or not. It's just.
Well, I see a huge question if the auditor comes back and says, yeah, your expenses are way greater than your income, then we have to raise the user fees in order to pay for this.
Right.
Is everybody in agreement tonight to do that?
No, but I think the same question you could take at every single project we do. The water plant, we can, scratch that if we don't have the money for it.
No, we
Same
didn't
thing
do that
now.
ahead of time.
What we need.
We raised your water rates prior to.
And what did we hear last week?
May have to raise them again.
So, that, again, it can happen with any of them. Alderman
Okay,
Oakley.
well, I'm gonna go on, but I'm gonna go on now, that everybody else is going on. What I learned today was, and I talked to Mr. Heatherly just prior to the meeting, that we've talked a lot of times about the water fund, and it being an enterprise fund. And as everybody knows very well, that it's an enterprise fund because of the fact that years ago, we borrowed a lot of money from the water fund. And you can do that, and that money was put in the general fund. And then, but you gotta pay it back. You have to put that money back in the water fund. You can't forgive that, the general fund can't forgive that debt. You gotta put it back. That's where it came from, and that's where it goes. Well, in addition to that enterprise fund, the city also has, and it's got out of the auditor's book today, the sewer fund, the cemetery fund, the airport, and lake are also enterprise funds. Those funds are meant to stand alone. In other words, the sewer fund we charge a user fee for that. That money comes into the city, and where does the city put it? They don't put it in a separate fund. They put it in the general fund. Okay. So if we're going to spend money in this project for phase 5, and say it's coming out of the sewer fund, where it's actually coming from, it says sewer use, it's actually coming from the general fund. So in other words, if there's not enough money, if that money was segregated, if the sewer fund money was segregated, based upon the user fees, based upon the money that we charge our customers, based upon the water bill that we send out, if that money was segregated and put into a fund, you would find out that we're spending more money than we're taking in right now. Okay? If that money was segregated, if that money was like the water fund is segregated, but we're keeping above water. I hate to say that, but we are. We're okay. The sewer fund is not the same way. We're spending more money than we're taking in. So if you're going to borrow that money, and it's going to be I don't know how you can do that for a dedicated source to be that money that's in a general fund, that's where you're going to be borrowing from. Or maybe you could say, yeah, but we're going to set aside the user fees that we charge that appears on your water bill. We're going to set that aside, and we're going to make that a dedicated source for this loan. I don't know how you do that. I'm not familiar with that. But maybe you could do that. But I feel uncomfortable that we're going to take money out of the fund. And Mr. Heberling said we've already done that before. But I don't recall that, at least this discussion that I'm telling you. I didn't know what I'm telling you until today.
Alderman Heberling.
Yeah, we've discussed this at, I don't know how many meetings over the past 2.5 years, but the sewer fund as it exists right now does not support the activities of the sewer department. And the sewer fund was not established to support all of the activities at the sewer department. So if that's a new standard, if that's what we're going to use, and that's okay, if that's what we're going to use, then we're going to have massive changes down the sewer department. But it strikes me as kind of odd that what we had contemplated on doing tonight has already been done, and we're currently carrying an IEPA wastewater loan from dedicated funds out of sewer fund for all of the lift station updates that we did 5 years ago. This is not something new. Back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we chose to use those funds out of sewer fund to improve the lift stations, and I think that's an appropriate use of those funds. This this is a use similar to that. But if we're gonna start saying that these enterprise funds have to be the sole support of all of these other entities, then the city has serious financial problems, right? Because those enterprise funds are gonna have to solely support just the cemetery, just the airport, just the sewer department, just the lake, and the water department. And the water department, even though they're asking for the opportunity to borrow up to $33 million tonight, I mean, on the new plant, what are you short, $2.5 million? So, I mean, where are those funds coming from? I mean, if we want to have this kind of conversation, we can. And I don't care if we don't, well, I do care if we don't do phase 5. But you can't mix apples and oranges. It's something that we've done in the past, and we've used those funds responsibly. Now, I'm not quite sure how bond council in the past could have approved the use of those funds for that IEPA wastewater loan, when in the past, that sewer fund wasn't fully supporting the sewer department. Do we have a new standard now? Are we going to stop using funds out of the general fund to make up the difference of what's needed at sewer department? I mean, it seems kind of a strange conversation to me.
All right.
I'm not saying necessarily don't use the funds. I'm just saying is, if you take that money out of there, you gotta understand that those aren't, you know, it sounded like we had thousands of dollars coming in on a monthly basis, and that small amount, that's what I read in the minutes, that small amount was gonna cover this, and I would agree with that. And I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but, you know, the lift stations, I can't remember that. I thought that came out of the sales tax increase that the city passed, and that's where that money comes from, because those, as I recall, over the years, when we had one superintendent back, he told us that the city was in dire straits with the lift stations, and there was no money to fix those lift stations, period. So we didn't raise the sewer fees, as I can recall, but that money came from this increase of the sales tax. That's what I recall. I don't know, does anybody else remember that? Is that where it comes from? Do you know, Jackie, or not? It doesn't make any difference to
That was
me.
back in 2012, but it does come from the sewer fees that are collected a month to pay that lift station IUP loan.
From the sewer usage fees, the money that's generated from the water bills.
All right, we've got a motion on the table. We're going all the way back to the engineering service agreements. We have to get a vote on that. We had a
I'll make a motion to table that, until we find out some answers to these questions.
Will you be available for a special meeting if it is a
I
time-sensitive
would be.
thing? So,
Yeah, it wasn't time to,
okay, motion table. Anyone going to second it?
I'll second it.
You second the motion table?
What motion are we, I thought we just.
To authorize the engineering service agreements with Green Rapid, so they can go ahead and apply.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call to table.
Sean Bertle,
yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly,
No.
Bruce Jones. Rocky Moore,
No.
Martin Boda,
No.
Earl Walters.
No.
Okay, so the motion table fails. Okay, so now,
Your Honor, but if this would help clarify and unmuddy some of the water, I'll make a motion to separate these two.
Second.
all right, so which one, we're going to take care of the 30-inch northeast sanitary sewer to authorize the mayor to sign an engineering service agreement with Green and Bradford for the 30-inch northeast sanitary. Alderman Walters, who seconded that one?
I did.
Alderman Heberlin?
That's based upon the recommendation of the city attorney.
It was his idea, but he did say no.
You can have it.
No, he's going to look over the agreements.
Right.
That's what you
Exactly.
had in that motion before, so I want to make sure it's in the motion.
Exactly, Okay. Roll call, please.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
I didn't get a chance to ask, this is for 30 inch, right?
30 inch.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, now we'll have a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the engineering service agreement with Green and Bradford Incorporated for the Phase 5 Kenton Edition, barring any outstanding concerns regarding the agreement language per the city attorney's review.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters,
Second.
Let's make a motion to table that one, till we get the answer that we're looking for the last time.
I got my motion, my second on this one. First. Isn't that how it works? Okay. Roll call.
Wait a minute. What, you got a motion to
He
table?
goes in.
But before he did, I had the motion by Alderman Walters, second by Alderman Moore, and then he said table.
Doesn't table
I
right?
think table overrides it.
Okay, so even after you take it first and second?
Mhm.
Okay. Motion to table up Alderman Bertle, second.
Second.
Alderman Dorchenez. Roll call, table.
Rob Heatherly.
Oh, of course not. No.
Bruce Jones.
No.
Rocky Moore.
No.
Martin Boda.
No.
Earl Walters.
No.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion to table fails. Now, do I have to start again, or do I take my original first and seconds?
First and second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Alderman Walters, second by Alderman Moore,
Comment.
to approve. Okay, we have a comment, Alderman Bertle.
This moment in my life, I do not understand when you have questions, why it's not prudent to find the answers to the questions. I really don't understand why anybody can disagree with that. I just don't understand it. You know, and I think the last time that we talked about this at the finance committee, I asked specifically, because I think Treasure Nation brought up the fact that the Vector truck was, the payments for it was coming out of the sewer usage fee. And now we find out that the lift stations, I didn't realize that the other night, that the lift stations would come out the sewer usage fee. And I thought the time before this last finance meeting, that this past finance, we're gonna have these numbers on a piece of paper in black and white, where we can look at them and say, okay, we've got X amount of dollars coming in, we got X amount of dollars coming out. And to this day, I still don't have that piece of paper. And I just don't understand why, if somebody on this council, I don't care who you are, whether it's me or the mayor or any other alderman, if you have questions, why we can't get those answered prior to everything being an emergency at council night? I just don't get
Well,
it.
I think that's why the agenda goes out early, so you can do your homework if you want to.
It goes out 3 days early, yeah.
How long would you like to do your
Maybe
research?
the night of the committee meetings. Get the information before we discuss it at
That's
committee level.
The same thing at the committee meetings. It's put on the agenda topics. You can do your research there and bring it to you, to the committee meeting. I mean,
Your Honor, I'd
that's.
like to make a motion to call some questions.
All right.
I'm gonna table that motion.
Roll call, right? He was just making a comment on the motion that was there. Motion to table already failed.
No, okay.
Bad
Call
joke,
for the
I'm
question.
sorry.
Roll call, please.
Aggravation setting in.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
No other choice, no.
Ernie Dorchenez.
No.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2. All right, moving on to,
Ordinance.
well, I think let's see.
We had him.
The resolutions that have to go along with this too, weren't there? For the engineering services, are we going through the whole thing again? With the
Yeah.
resolutions?
Correct.
All right. I have a resolution, the service agreement for engineering services with Green and Bradford for construction guidance and observation for the northeastern 30-inch sanitary sewer Phase 1 project.
So moved, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters,
Second.
second by Alderman Heatherly. Discussion or comments? Roll call.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Motion
Bruce.
passes.
Bruce
Yes.
Jones.
That's what the understanding is still with the city.
Right.
attorney review.
Right.
Yeah.
On both resolutions.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, next we have a resolution, the service agreement for engineering services with Green and Bradford for construction, guidance, and observation, Phase 5, North Silver Street and West Elm
So
Street.
moved, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters. Second, Alderman Heatherly.
Comment.
Discussion, comment, go ahead, Alderman Bertle.
You know, we separated the resolutions, but we didn't separate it. Should tell you something right there. Pretty simple.
I didn't,
No, I don't have anything else. Couldn't point that out.
any other comments before we vote? Roll call.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
No.
Ernie Dorchenez.
No.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes. Motion passes 5-2. Moving on to ordinance committee.
Okay. We had a motion to approve the proposed ordinance regarding the indoor recycling centers of special use in C1, C2, I1, I2, I3 zoning districts, and forward to the planning commission and set a public hearing. I'd like to make a motion.
Second, Alderman Boda. Discussion and comment. Roll call.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next motion was direct city attorney to make revisions as discussed, and/or the mayor may otherwise direct and forward the proposed amended ordinance regarding firearm ranges as a special use in C1, C2, I1, I2, I3 zoning districts to the planning and zoning commission and to set a public hearing. I'd like to make that motion.
A second on that?
Second, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters. Discussion or comment?
I'd like to make a comment. I think I've made the changes.
Yes.
So with the approval of the chairman of the committee, so I'm free to go to the
Planning commission.
planning commission.
Before we vote, the only comment I'll make is Larry Bud couldn't be here, and he wanted me to let him know he still has concerns regarding the caliber size, he's against the 50 caliber, and automatics being allowed, so that was his comment on it. Roll call, please.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And our third motion was the motion to direct city attorney to amend the sewer section of the city code based upon the recommendation of the street sewer committee. I'd like to make a motion to table that back to the ordinance committee and have the city attorney take a look at that and give us a recommendation based upon the pursuant discussions that we've had. So I'd like to make a motion to direct that back to the ordinance committee.
Okay, is that separate from table? Do we need to table and then, like,
We just table it, and then it's going to go back to the committee, and I think the Alderman Jones indicated he was going to send me his comments of what they think the ordinance committee has already discussed, because I'm not familiar with what changes we're talking about here. So the motion to table. And we'll put it back.
Jones,
I'm-
second?
Yeah.
Alderman Bertle. Roll call.
My Robert's rules tonight, you know that.
Roll call, please.
We're good. Motion to rescind?
Rob Heatherly.
No, you won't.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Table. Moving on to Lake Airport Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had three motions coming out of our last Lake and Airport Committee. The first of which was a motion to approve the new crappie regulations for Lake Taylorville, and those will go into effect April 1st of 2017. I'll place that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Alderman Moore. All right, discussion or comment?
Just comment, Your Honor. Just for the interest of the media, if they haven't had the opportunity, I think those new rules and regs are in the minutes, so if you want to utilize those in the media report, appreciate that.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
7-0.
Just about to get
The next motion, Your Honor, was a motion to accept a low quote of $1,900 from Benton and Associates for the annual Lake Taylorville Dam inspection. Place that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Vote second by Alderman Dorchenez. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And then the final motion to come out of our meeting is a motion to allow Superintendent Jackson to seek bids for cabin cleaning at Lake Taylorville for the 2016 and 2017 capping seasons. Please have a motion.
I'll second that with comments.
Alderman Walters, what are your comments?
This is something new, this will be for a 2-year period. In the past, we've normally done this for a year at a time.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to water environmental.
Thank you, Your Honor. First motion that came out of the Water Environmental Committee meeting was a motion to approve Phase 2 of the geophysical survey in the amount of $23,400 and Phase 3 maximum yield modeling proposal in the amount of $16,280 from Lane Christensen Company, and direct the mayor to sign the necessary documents. I'll make that in form of a motion.
Okay, for a second.
Second.
Alderman Boda, discussion or comment? Roll call.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
The next motion that came out of the meeting was a motion to accept the low quote of $3,140 from Farmer Environmental Services LLC for asbestos and lead-based paint testing of the existing water plant. I'd like to make that in form of a motion.
Okay, for a second on that.
Second, Sean.
Alderman Walters, discussion or comment? Roll call.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And last but not least is a motion to approve the debt authorization ordinance for the new water plant in the amount not to exceed, which is succeed, $33 million. I'll make that in form of a motion.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
Alderman Walters, discussion or comment? City Attorney.
Actually, I think you would just adopt, go on the first page, the actual ordinance.
Yes, you're right.
And I think, Mary, you vote on that, correct?
Okay. So, basically the same language, ordinance proposing the
Yeah.
issuance of water.
Yeah, motion to adopt the ordinance proposing the issuance of water, which you got on the front page.
Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Walters. Any discussion on this?
One question.
Alderman Jones.
If we turn off the prison, do we need 6 million gallons a day?
Okay. Well, please discuss that at a different day.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Rocky Moore.
Yes.
Martin Boda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
And Mayor.
And the mayor votes yes. Motion passes 8-0.
And you understand that that's basically a backdoor ordinance, that as long as 10% of the voters do not call for the election, then bond council will bring you more ordinances to go forward with that project.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to approve and ratify payment of bills in the amount of $222,297.42.
So,
Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Walters. And Alderman Bud has his list he would like me to read. Bills for this month, as of February 16, 2016. Electric and gas, $27,254.02. Fuel, $7,373.30. Big R Ace Urban and Taylorville fee, $2,711.67. Garbage, $1,519.65. U.S. Bank miscellaneous, $1,248.09. Computer Tech, $2,245.67. Larry Berry, $1,393.58. Napa and O'Reilly, $1,759.48. Woody's Municipal Supply, $1,777.39. Illinois Director of Employment Securities Unemployment, $2,211. Lowell Law Attorney Labor Fees, $4,015. Bob Ridings, 2 new cars in service, $55,631.75. Uniform allowance, police and fire, $1,779.86. Police department, instinct systems, power server and setup, $3,995. Fire department, ATI Services of Illinois, control module, $1,185.67. Street department, brush truck centers, parts, $2,541.81. Water department, $1,689.96. Althofer, $2,366. Inco utility supply, for chemicals, $14,272.29. Sewer department, we're talking JF Cody supplies, $1,397. Maltby excavating, $6,687. Van Deventer engineering, $32,687.26. Arrow Energy Fuel, $21,898.76. Cody Long at the top of the trees, $1,500. Star Electric repair fuel pump, $1,264.75. Glenn Brothers overhead door repair Lake Department, $3,294. And the Comus Quarry, $1,031.56. These total $206,731.52. All right, any other questions? Roll call.
Rob Heatherly,
Yes.
Bruce Jones,
Yes, ma'am.
Rocky Moore,
Yes.
Martin Boda,
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Alderman Dorchenez, would you like to?
Yes, I would. I'd like to just recognize Jamie Hedden's in the audience. He's the one that's heading up the new water plant, and he came over here tonight from Jacksonville to answer any questions that we might have. And I try to discourage that because I told him that Dave and I have this under control. We do every week. We even went through a rehearsal asking each other questions. We couldn't stump either one. But thank you, Jamie, for coming over tonight and being there for any questions that might be asked about.
Yeah, thank you. If anybody has any questions, be glad to answer those for you. Thank you.
I would just say, if you'd like to share this experience with your family, this has been taped and will be on our website. Anyone else? Okay.
Free of charge.
Personnel paragraph G of 5 ILCS 120/2.06. This portion of the city council meeting is reserved for any person wishing to address the council on any relevant subject matters concerning the city. Anyone out there like to address the council? Seeing no additional items on the agenda, I entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Jones. Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Against, motion passes, meeting adjourned at 8:23 p.m.